The scent of sawdust and aged cedar usually brought me peace. It was the steady rhythm of my life, the quiet hum of the workshop in our Seattle home. For over 20 years, this space had been my sanctuary, a place where I shaped wood and, in doing so, felt I was shaping a stable life for my family. I was Ethan Miller, a craftsman in my early 50s, content in my routine, my marriage to Clara, and raising our 2 kids, Leo, almost 18 and finishing high school, and Maya, 13 and navigating middle school. Clara had always been the more vibrant one, the social one. I was the quiet anchor. Lately, though, her vibrancy had taken on a restless edge. More late nights, always citing work projects, a new intensity about her appearance, expensive new clothes, a different haircut, hours at a trendy gym downtown. Her phone was an extension of her hand, guarded fiercely. Our evenings, once shared over dinner and talking about the kids' day, became strained, punctuated by her hurried explanations or her scrolling through feeds, a faint, private smile on her lips. Intimacy? That had dwindled to nothing over the last few months. Always an excuse. Tired, headache, big meeting tomorrow. I'd chalked it up to stress at her marketing firm. I trusted her. Completely. That was my greatest strength, and as it turned out, my most profound vulnerability. I believed in the life we had built, brick by brick, plank by plank. I never imagined it was being systematically dismantled behind my back. The email arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Not a text, not a call, but a formal, cold email from Clara. It simply said she needed to talk, face to face, something important. It felt wrong, clinical. Leo was at football practice. Maya was at a friend's house. The house felt too quiet as I waited. The air was thick with the smell of rain, typical Seattle grey pressing against the windows. She didn't arrive alone. A man I'd never seen before stood beside her on the porch. Tall, broad-shouldered, late 30s, with eyes that seemed to size me up with a casual arrogance. Clara introduced him as Marcus Thorne. His handshake was firm, almost challenging. We went into the living room, the same room where we'd celebrated birthdays, Christmases and anniversaries. The room where Maya had taken her first steps. We sat, Clara composed, almost detached, on the sofa, Marcus beside her, leaning back in his chair, observing me with that same unsettling gaze. I offered them coffee, tea. Clara declined. Then she spoke. Her voice was steady, devoid of emotion. "Ethan," she began, folding her hands in her lap, "Marcus and we're together now." The words hung in the air, surreal and sharp. I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Together," I managed, my voice thin. "Yes," she continued, looking at Marcus. "We met a few months ago. We've fallen in love. I haven't been happy in our marriage for a long time, Ethan. I felt stifled. You were always so focused on your work, the workshop. I needed more." Marcus reached over and placed a hand on her knee, a possessive gesture. He offered a small, smug smile. "There's something else," Clara added, her gaze returning to me. "I'm pregnant, about 3 months along. Marcus is the father." The world tilted. Pregnant with his child, in my home. The smell of rain outside suddenly felt suffocating. I stared at her, this woman I had shared my life with for over 20 years, the mother of my children, sitting here with a stranger, dropping these bombs with the clinical precision of a lawyer reading a will. "Get out," I said, the words surprisingly calm, though my hands were clenching into fists. "Both of you. Get out of my house. I'll be filing for divorce first thing tomorrow." Marcus shifted, his posture changing from relaxed to coiled. "Hold on now," he said, his voice rough. "This is her house too. You can't just kick her out." "Half of it might be," I replied, standing up slowly, my voice still steady, though my heart was pounding. "But you have no right to be here, and she forfeits any right to stay here after this. Get out! Now!" Marcus stood up, puffing out his chest, stepping closer to me. He was taller, heavier. "Listen, buddy," he growled, "you need to man up. Clara's moved on, to someone who appreciates her. You're not going to make this difficult for her." His tone was menacing. A flicker of something primal sparked in me, a protective instinct for my home, my space, even if it was already tainted. But a deeper instinct, perhaps learned from years of quiet observation in my workshop, kicked in. Subtlety. Preparation. As Marcus took another step towards me, his eyes hard, I subtly reached into my pocket, found my phone, and with a fumbling movement, managed to unlock it and start a voice recording app, leaving it partially concealed in my hand, near my side. "I'm warning you," I said, my voice low. "Leave, now, or I call the police." Marcus laughed, a short, ugly sound. The police, what are they going to do? A husband and wife having a disagreement? You think they'll care about your little feelings being hurt? He took another step, invading my personal space. You're the one who's going to have problems if you don't play nice. You make this divorce messy, you make things hard for Clara, and things are going to get real hard for you. He reached behind his back, under his jacket. My blood ran cold. He pulled out a heavy, industrial-looking wrench, the kind you'd use on heavy machinery or pipes. It was solid metal, capable of inflicting serious damage. He held it loosely by his side, but the implication was clear. "I know where you work, Craftsman," he sneered, gesturing with the wrench. "I know where your kids go to school. Accidents happen all the time. You understand?" I didn't flinch physically, but inside I was reeling. A threat, a physical threat, in my own home, in front of the pictures of my children on the wall. And Clara? She just sat there, watching. Her face was expressionless. There was no shock, no fear, no attempt to stop him. Just observation. It was chilling. She wasn't surprised he had a weapon. She wasn't surprised he was threatening me. "Get out," I repeated, my voice firmer this time, fueled by a cold anger that was overriding the fear. "Get out before I do something we'll all regret." Marcus held my gaze for another moment, then lowered the wrench slightly. He exchanged a look with Clara. She gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. He backed away slowly, still holding the wrench. "We'll be in touch," Marcus said, his voice a low growl. "Don't forget what I said." They turned and walked out, leaving the heavy silence of the living room behind them. The front door closed with a click. I stood there for a long moment, the phone still recording in my hand, the scent of cedar suddenly seeming alien and wrong in the air. My home felt violated, my life shattered. I didn't hesitate. As soon as I heard their car drive away, I called 911. My voice shook slightly as I explained the situation: the wife, the boyfriend, the pregnancy announcement, and the threat with a weapon. They dispatched officers immediately. When they arrived, I played the recording for them. Marcus's voice, the threats, the sound of the wrench being produced, and Clara's damning silence. Detective Isabella Rossi arrived later that evening. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, a calm but authoritative demeanor. She listened intently to the recording again, asked precise questions. She noted Clara's lack of reaction. "That's telling," she murmured. Based on the recording and my statement, Marcus Thorne was arrested later that night at his apartment. Clara Vance was also taken into custody, not for the threat itself, but for her complicity, her presence and silence during a felony. They were both released on bail the next day. When Leo and Maya came home, they saw the police cars outside. Their faces were a mixture of confusion and alarm. Explaining it to them was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Leo, usually so quiet, punched a hole in the wall of his bedroom and didn't come out for hours. Maya cried, clinging to me, asking why Mommy would do this. The devastation on their faces was far worse than any threat Marcus could have made. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the wreckage left in their lives. I contacted attorney David Chen the next morning. He came highly recommended, a seasoned divorce lawyer with a reputation for being sharp and strategic. I sat in his office, the recording of the threat playing softly on his computer. He listened, his expression grim. "Mr. Miller," he said, turning off the recording. "This changes things, significantly. This isn't just a divorce case now. This is a criminal matter, and that recording, it's powerful evidence. For the criminal case against Mr. Thorne and Miss Vance, and for your divorce proceedings." He explained the charges Marcus and Clara were facing: felony assault with a deadly weapon, or aggravated assault depending on the specifics of Washington state law, he clarified, and potentially conspiracy. He filed the divorce papers immediately, citing irreconcilable differences and, crucially, marital misconduct and endangerment based on the threat. Clara started calling and texting me incessantly. Messages full of tearful apologies, claiming Marcus had manipulated her, that she was scared, that she never meant for things to go so far, that she didn't know he had the wrench. I blocked her number on attorney Chen's advice. All communication had to go through the lawyers. Her messages were like listening to a bad actress trying to play the victim. The recording, her silence, contradicted every word. Leo and Maya refused to talk to her. Leo's anger simmered beneath the surface. He started getting into trouble at school, his grades slipping. His football coach called, concerned about his aggressive behaviour on the field. Maya was withdrawn, jumpy. She wouldn't sleep in her own room for weeks, insisting on sleeping on the sofa downstairs. The sense of security in our home had been shattered for them. A few weeks later, Detective Rossi called. She wanted to meet. We sat in her office, the air smelling faintly of stale coffee and disinfectant. "Mr. Miller," she began, "we've been digging into Mr. Thorne. He's involved in, shall we say, less than legitimate business practices. Collections. Intimidation work. That wrench? It's a tool of his trade. He's got a history of using force." She paused, looking at a file on her desk. "And we've had a breakthrough. Someone came forward after seeing the news about his arrest. A former associate of Thorne's. Let's call him Source X. Source X, it turned out, was involved in some of Marcus's shadier dealings, but drew the line at domestic situations. Hearing about the arrest and fearing Marcus might try to implicate him, he decided to cooperate. And what he revealed was chilling. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing, Mr. Miller, Detective Rossi said, leaning forward. Source X provided us with communications, emails, encrypted messages between Clara and Marcus going back months. She slid a tablet across the desk. I picked it up, my hands trembling slightly. The messages were laid out like a script. Plans. Discussions about my assets, my business, the value of the house. Clara complaining about feeling trapped, wanting out, wanting a significant settlement. Marcus suggesting ways to handle the divorce, to make sure she got what she wanted. And then the messages about the confrontation. Clara outlining the plan, announcing the pregnancy, getting me emotional, provoking a reaction. Marcus agreeing to contribute. Clara asking if he could make sure he understands the seriousness. Marcus's reply, "Leave that to me. I'll bring the hardware, a little persuasion. Make sure he knows not to fight you on the money. He's a soft touch, right? A craftsman? Probably cry when you tell him." Clara's reply, "He's a coward. This will work. You're the best, sweetie." I felt physically ill. A plan. They planned it. The announcement, the provocation, the threat. It wasn't just infidelity and a messy divorce. It was a calculated conspiracy to intimidate me, to financially ruin me, using a physical threat as leverage. And Clara thought I was a coward who would cry, that my trust was a weakness to be mocked. The betrayal cut even deeper now. It wasn't just breaking vows. It was an act of deliberate, cold-blooded cruelty. "This confirms the conspiracy charge," Detective Rossi stated, her voice firm. "It shows premeditation. They weren't just having an affair, they were plotting against you. This evidence is going straight to the prosecutor. It strengthens both the criminal case against them and your position in the divorce." As if that wasn't enough, another revelation came. This one courtesy of Maya. She'd been going through old photo albums, trying to find pictures of happier times, pictures of us before everything broke. She found a small, older smartphone tucked away in the back of a drawer in Clara's dresser, hidden beneath some scarves. It wasn't the phone Clara used regularly. She brought it to me, confused. It was locked, but my tech-savvy friend helped me gain access. What was on it sent another jolt through me. Messages starting over a year ago. Clara communicating with Marcus, yes, but also with someone else. Another man. Casual, flirtatious messages at first, then more intimate ones. His name was Kevin. He was a personal trainer at the gym Clara had joined. Scrolling further back, the messages between Clara and Kevin overlapped with the early planning messages between Clara and Marcus. She was seeing them both. And then, a few months ago, messages between Clara and Kevin about her pregnancy symptoms. Messages confirming he was the father. She had lied to Marcus too. Used him for his intimidating presence and willingness to be involved in the plot, all while the baby wasn't even his. The depth of her deceit was staggering. She wasn't just betraying me. She was betraying Marcus, using him as a pawn in her larger scheme, lying about the most fundamental detail, the paternity of the child she was using as leverage. She was a spider, weaving a complex web of lies and manipulation, trapping everyone around her. This new evidence, the texts with Marcus about the conspiracy, the text with Kevin about his paternity, was devastating. I provided everything to Attorney Chen and Detective Rossi. The prosecutor was now considering additional charges, including potentially aggravated conspiracy or fraud related to the divorce plot. Clara's calls and messages intensified again after the new evidence surfaced, delivered through her lawyer. She claimed Marcus had tricked her, that she didn't know about the conspiracy texts, that he was the manipulative one. She denied knowing about Kevin or claimed it was just a brief, meaningless fling. But the texts didn't lie. They showed her active participation, her cold calculation, her mocking tone towards me, and her clear deception of Marcus. The impact on Leo and Maya deepened. Leo's anger turned into a quiet, simmering resentment. He still struggled with school and his behavior, but he started talking to a therapist I found for him, slowly working through the layers of betrayal and anger. Maya was still jumpy, but she started drawing again, filling sketchbooks with dark, swirling images that hinted at her inner turmoil. They both remained steadfast in their refusal to see or speak to Clara. Maya sent Clara one text message after I showed her some of the messages from the hidden phone, the ones where Clara laughed about me being a coward. "I hope your baby grows up and betrays you, just like you betrayed us," it read. Clara's reply was short and utterly devoid of understanding. "You'll understand when you're older and fall in love." It showed just how little she grasped the magnitude of what she had broken. I showed the conspiracy texts to Clara's parents. They had initially been sympathetic to Clara, believing her narrative of a distant husband and an unhappy marriage. Seeing the cold, calculated plotting, the mockery of me, the planning of the threat, her father, a man I had known and respected for over 2 decades, broke down in my living room. "We didn't raise her to be like this," he choked out. They stopped taking Clara's calls. Their support shifted, cautiously at first, then more firmly towards me and the children. Attorney Chen was confident. With the recording of the threat, the detailed conspiracy texts, and the evidence of Clara's multiple deceptions, including the paternity lie, her position in the divorce was severely weakened. The planned provocation and threat, combined with the conspiracy to gain assets, would likely result in her receiving very little. My business, my home, the things they had targeted, were likely safe. But honestly, by then, the money didn't matter as much as ensuring she faced consequences and was removed from our lives for good. The woman in those texts, the one who plotted and mocked and lied with such coldness, was a stranger. The Clara I thought I married, the one who helped me build this life, was gone. Or maybe she had never truly existed. It was a difficult realization. Had I been a fool for 20 years? Jenny's question from the original story echoed in my mind. Did you ever have any suspicions? No, I hadn't. My trust was absolute, and she had weaponized it. The criminal trial for Marcus and Clara came first. It was a tense, draining process. Marcus faced charges related to the threat and conspiracy. Clara was charged with conspiracy and complicity in the threat, her silence on the recording being key evidence of her awareness and agreement. Detective Rossi was a steady presence, her testimony clear and factual. She presented the evidence of the conspiracy plot, the texts, the emails, the testimony from Source X. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint him as a tough guy caught in a bad situation, claiming he was just trying to protect Clara from an unstable husband, me. Clara's lawyer portrayed her as a vulnerable woman trapped in a loveless marriage, manipulated by the dangerous Marcus Thorne. They tried to spin the texts as Clara just venting or joking, and Marcus exaggerating. Then came the recording, played for the court, for the jury. My voice, calm despite the terror. Marcus's aggressive tone, the chilling sound of the wrench, his threats against me and my children, and Clara's silence. You could feel the shift in the room. The jury members' faces were grim. Clara looked away, pale. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The prosecution rested its case, having laid out a compelling narrative of a planned, malicious act. Facing overwhelming evidence, particularly the recording and the conspiracy texts, Marcus's lawyer approached the prosecutor. A plea deal was offered. Marcus would plead guilty to a lesser charge related to the threat and conspiracy, in exchange for testifying truthfully about Clara's role in the plot. He faced a reduced sentence, perhaps probation or a shorter jail term, instead of a potentially long prison sentence if convicted of the more serious felonies. Marcus accepted. His testimony was devastating for Clara. He sat on the stand under oath and confirmed everything. Clara came up with the idea. She researched him, found him through mutual contacts or online, knew his reputation. She approached him at the gym, not the other way around. She outlined the plan, the announcement, the provocation, the need for him to be intimidating. She specifically requested he bring something to emphasize the point, something that would make me understand the consequences of fighting the divorce. He confirmed that Clara chose him because of his perceived toughness and willingness to use force. He stated unequivocally that Clara was the architect of the entire scheme. He even admitted that Clara had told him I was a coward and wouldn't fight back hard if intimidated. He said she wanted the maximum settlement possible and saw this as a way to achieve it. His testimony, combined with the irrefutable digital evidence, left Clara with nowhere to hide. Her lawyer looked visibly frustrated. The criminal trial concluded shortly after. Marcus received a sentence that included significant probation and community service, but he avoided prison due to his cooperation and plea. Clara was found guilty of conspiracy and complicity in the threat. Her sentencing was deferred until after the divorce proceedings concluded, but the conviction itself was a massive blow. The judge also issued a permanent restraining order against both of them, prohibiting contact with me, my home, my workplace, and my children. The divorce trial followed swiftly. Attorney Chen was relentless. He presented the criminal conviction, Marcus's testimony, the conspiracy texts, and the evidence of Clara's affair with Kevin and the paternity lie. Clara, despite the criminal conviction, still tried to play the victim in family court. She tearfully claimed Marcus had coerced her, that she was scared, that she was just trying to escape an emotionally distant marriage. Her lawyer brought in a colleague from her firm to testify that Clara had confided in her about her marital unhappiness. But Attorney Chen systematically dismantled her defense. He cross-examined her, confronting her with her own words in the conspiracy texts, her cool demeanor on the recording during the threat, and the undeniable evidence of her affair with Kevin and the lie about paternity. He highlighted the calculated nature of her actions, the months of planning, the deliberate targeting of my assets. Then came the moment that seemed to break Clara completely, even more than Marcus's testimony. Attorney Chen presented the paternity test results. They were conclusive. Marcus Thorne was not the father. Kevin was. The courtroom erupted slightly. Marcus, who was there as a witness, looked stunned, then enraged. He started shouting, "She lied to me! The whole time! It wasn't even my kid! She ruined my life for nothing!" Bailiffs had to escort him out, still yelling about Clara's betrayal. Kevin, the personal trainer, was subpoenaed and testified. He was younger, seemingly naive. He confirmed his relationship with Clara, which had been ongoing for months. He stated that Clara had told him she was separated or already divorced, that her daughters— he thought Leo was a daughter because Clara referred to her kids generally, and he'd seen Maya at the gym once— were grown and lived with their father, and that she was looking to start a new life. He had no idea she was still married, let alone planning a conspiracy with another man while pregnant with his child. He showed messages where Clara had talked about them building a future together after her divorce was final. His testimony painted Clara as a serial deceiver, manipulating multiple men simultaneously. Clara's final shred of credibility vanished. Her own lawyer looked utterly defeated, almost disgusted. When court resumed after a brief recess, Clara had a complete meltdown. She began sobbing, shouting about how everyone was against her, how she just wanted to be happy, how unfair it was. The judge, a stern, no-nonsense woman, was unimpressed. She simply waited for Clara to finish, then calmly stated that the court had seen ample evidence of Ms. Vance's calculated deceit and malicious intent and would rule accordingly. In the meantime, Clara's professional life had imploded. Her marketing firm had a strict ethics policy. When the details of the criminal charges and the conspiracy plot came to light during a routine background check for a potential promotion, they fired her immediately. The story, particularly the more salacious details revealed in court, spread through her professional network like wildfire. She was effectively blacklisted in Seattle marketing circles. Unable to find work or afford her own place, she ended up moving in with her sister in a smaller town across the state. The impact on Leo and Maya was still profound, but they were slowly healing. Leo's therapist was helping him channel his anger into more constructive outlets. He was back on the football field. His grades were improving, pulling himself back from the brink. Maya was less fearful, starting to draw brighter pictures, though the scars remained. They still refused contact with Clara. When she tried sending lengthy, tearful emails, they ignored them. Leo deleted them without reading. Maya's one harsh text message remained her final word to her mother. Clara's parents, my former in-laws, continued to be a quiet source of support. They were heartbroken by Clara's actions, but maintained contact with Leo and Maya, visiting them, taking them out. Clara's mother would sometimes come over on Sundays, just like she used to years ago, and cook a meal for us. It was a small, comforting echo of the past, a connection to a family that wasn't entirely lost. Her father helped Leo fix the hole in his wall, teaching him about drywall repair, a quiet, masculine presence that helped fill some of the void. Current part characters, 789 total characters, 2385. The divorce was finalized about a month after the trial. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. Given the overwhelming evidence of Clara's marital misconduct, her calculated conspiracy to defraud me, and the criminal conviction related to the threat, the asset division was heavily skewed. I retained the house, my workshop, and my business assets. Clara received only her personal belongings and her car. The judge made it clear that her actions had forfeited any claim to the substantial assets she had plotted to acquire. Custody was straightforward. Leo was already 18 by the time it was finalized, legally an adult. Maya, at 13, was placed in my sole primary custody, with no visitation rights granted to Clara given her instability, criminal record, and the trauma she had inflicted. Clara's world had completely collapsed. The loss of her career, her home, her children, her financial security, and her reputation seemed to send her into a tailspin. Her sister called me occasionally, giving me updates, often tinged with frustration and worry. Clara was drinking heavily, even while pregnant. Despite everyone's warnings, she continued. Tragically, at 5 months, she lost the baby. Her sister confirmed that the doctors believed her excessive drinking was a significant contributing factor. It was a grim, heartbreaking consequence, a life lost before it even began, a final, devastating outcome of Clara's reckless choices. Kevin, the actual father, wanted nothing to do with her after the court revelations. He was understandably horrified by her lies and the conspiracy plot. He left his job at the gym and moved out of state, wanting to escape the drama and the association with Clara. Marcus Thorne also faced the fallout. His plea deal kept him out of prison, but his criminal record and the public nature of the case cost him his business and reputation. His wife, who had stood by him through previous issues, but was appalled by his involvement in this domestic plot and his affair, filed for divorce and was granted full custody of their children. He reportedly left Seattle, moving down to Arizona, working odd jobs, complaining to anyone who would listen about how Clara Vance had ruined his life. Clara's downward spiral hit a new low a few weeks after the divorce was final. Early one morning, around 2 a.m., she showed up at my house. She was visibly intoxicated, standing in the driveway, yelling my name, yelling that she'd lost everything, that it was one mistake, that she wanted to come home, that she'd make things right. Before I could even figure out what to do, a neighbor, awakened by the noise, called the police. They arrived quickly and found Clara in violation of the restraining order. She resisted slightly, but was taken into custody. She spent 2 days in jail. Her sister, weary of Clara's self-destructive behavior and refusal to take responsibility, declined to bail her out immediately, hoping the time in jail would be a wake-up call. According to her sister, it was the first time Clara had ever faced real, immediate consequences for her actions. The children are doing better. The wounds are still there, and the trauma is a part of their story now. But they are healing. Leo finished high school, his grades back up to a solid B average. He's decided to take a gap year, working with me in the workshop, learning the craft. He still attends therapy, processing his anger, but it's less volatile now, more focused. He even helped me patch and repair the hole he'd punched in the wall months ago, a quiet act of putting things back together. Maya is still in middle school, but she's less anxious, more comfortable in her own skin. She's found a support group